Hi guys, welcome back to Two Worlds Collide podcast. On today's episode, we have Mali Briggs, founder of the Aussie Frontline Foundation, to unpack the 1,042k run I just completed from Melbourne to Adelaide. 23 and a half days, averaging 45k's a day. One mission: to raise awareness for our veterans, military personnel, and frontline workers doing it tough. We talk about the highs, the lows, the why, and what's next. And we're almost at $50,000 in donations. And there's still time to donate if you haven't already. And the links to donate are in the information section below. I hope you guys enjoy. Road to Recovery gave me that.
Yeah. Yeah, they came and gave us some flyers at your...
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a really good lady.
Yeah, seems passionate.
Yeah, really good. Mate, they heard we were coming. Someone sent to one of my reels, Power of Social Media, and they heard that we were coming, and we hadn't booked any accommodation in that area yet, and they completely took care of us. Like so many people within that area, to be honest, when I posted the first reel, there had this flow-on effect of people would be like, oh yeah, he's come through this area, they would send him over, and I mean, I think we paid for one osteo appointment the entire time. The rest of them would hear what we're doing and they'd be like, nah, just can I have a photo with you, we'll post it on our social media, and we'll give it to us for free. They were all great. There was countless massage therapists, osteos and physios along the way that would not charge us. But probably the best one with the best advice is the Warrnambool one.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Yeah.
That was a surprise.
Yeah. Yeah, because I went in there and I thought to myself, oh, this guy, this isn't going to work. He's just wasting my time. And then I remember looking at Mum, because Steph wasn't there, but I remember looking at Mum just going, oh, no, we've just wasted half an hour here. Because you're just against the time. You're against the clock with everything. And this is when I got injured on day 8, when I thought it was all over.
Yeah,
and
that's when you stopped after 15k.
Yeah,
and just called it for the day.
Yeah,
Milo.
Yeah, that's the dogs. Because and I guess we'll get to all that, but went in and seen this guy, and he just gave me some good tips, and also the rock tape. So I've never been a fan of this rock tape at all, ever. I'm like, that shit doesn't work. But it helped in the slightest way, because that rock tape is it's like elastic. So what you do is you pull it out and you put it on.
Yeah, and it pulls
the skin up. Yep. So obviously you can get blood to the area and get blood flow to that area. Because what was happening was there was no blood flow to that area. It was getting ultra inflamed. And every time that I tried to activate that tendon, which tried to activate my foot to bring it up, it would feel like someone got a hammer and hit me in the shin. And it would just happen time and time again, until one would happen that badly that it would like jolt up my body and it would cause me to fall over. Because I was thinking to myself, like, this is just pain, I've got to run through it. Like, this isn't an injury, this is just pain. And then I had that injury where it went whack. And I think my wife was filming me walking around barefoot in a shopping mall where I had to lift my foot up higher. Yeah, because it just wouldn't activate. Yeah. And I thought it was all over.
And it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. And yeah, thank God to my mum on it, and Steph as well. Probably from about day 4, because we struggled to get started again in the morning of day 4, because the Achilles just... I mean, I remember looking at my feet on day 4 and I could hardly see my ankles. I could hardly see my ankles because they were all bruised and swollen. And, I probably got a bit naive in the fact I wasn't doing a great amount of recovery at night. I was just thinking to myself, I'll just get up and rest. But, I wasn't really doing the ice baths. We're actually having warm baths at night, which was a bit, probably wasn't great, because it just wasn't having the same effect of what an ice bath was having. So we obviously changed over to that. But I wasn't stretching and I wasn't massage gunning of the way I was, and taking care of my body after that sort of day 5 and 6 period where we got really serious about getting my recovery right. But I remember looking down at day 4 and just not being able to see my ankles and trying to get started again. I thought, fuck, we're in for it here. But yeah, mate, anyway, let's jump into this and and do a bit of review on how the run went. So, Mali Briggs, mate, welcome to Two Odds Glide podcast. How you going?
I'm well. Thanks for having me, mate. Good to see you again.
Yeah, that's it. Back in Adelaide. This is the first podcast I've done in, maybe a month or so, maybe more.
For good reason.
Yeah, good to be back, actually. Good to be back in the seat. Good to be back getting episodes out again, which is obviously going to start. I've got some great guests organised over the next 4 weeks, 5-6 weeks even. So, and then I got a little baby on the way, which is going to be cool as.
Exciting times.
Yeah, mate.
How exciting.
It was. So, mate, you came and seen me. What is it? Day 14 or 13?
I reckon. Yeah. Don't quote me on it, but I reckon it was day 14. Yeah.
Yeah, that was when
crossing the border.
Yep. Yeah, I think that was around that Portland area. We stayed in Portland for a number of nights, which is Adelaide side of Warrnambool.
Yeah. Yep.
Obviously, it's a Portland. It's like a little port, and must be a deep sea port because they do all their logging out of there. Also, you know how Mount Gambier is surrounded by just that forest logging?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So the hardest part about that running and that route is we took a different route to the main highway that runs from Warrnambool to Gambier. We went a different one, which is a little bit longer. But that was a main trucking route for them logging companies.
Truck after truck.
Yeah, and obviously the road being smaller, it was a couple of hairy moments on there. I had to, because I would generally run on the right-hand side so I could see what was coming. And there were times where you could hear trucks coming from both ways and there would be a sharp corner and I'm just there crawling up the hill so these trucks don't hit me coming past.
I remember you, I was deep in thought on my short little stint with you, and I remember you grabbing me and wrenching me off the road when some trucks were coming, so thanks for that.
Yeah, I became super aware of that. Especially those doubles and B doubles and holding that much weight.
Yeah, there's not much they can do once they're going.
Nah, that's it. And especially if they get a little swerve out and their back end kicks out like a snake. It's not what happens at the front end for them, it's what happens at the back end. Yeah. And if they clip off by half a metre, it's that would have been good night and run over.
Yes, it would have been.
Yeah, I was talking to, when I got to Tailem Bend, I was talking to 4 coppers, because obviously there's 4 cops on bikes that patrol that route from Tailem Bend all up to Robe. Every single time they ran past, they all waved at me.
Yeah, good.
And when I walked into the servo at the end of one day to grab a coffee, they all looked at me and they're like, "Are you the runner?" And I said, yeah. So I went over and started talking to them, explained why I was doing it. And one of them knew, and the other guy's like, that's awesome. They ended up donating as well, which is cool.
That's nice.
And anyway, one of them had a story for me because they said, "Are you going to run on the highway from Tailem Bend to Adelaide?" And I said, "Oh, we're probably going to..." Well, we didn't really know at that stage. We normally mapped out sort of that night or the days ahead, that night. So we hadn't really planned too much. And one of the guys said, well, there was a guy recently, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, he was riding around Australia and he started in Adelaide, got all the way around, came back, and with about 50 Ks to go, he got clipped by one of them B doubles and died.
Fuck.
Yeah. So I said to myself...
That's not funny at all. It's tremendously sad, but it's just like...
Yeah. Well, he told me that, and then I told Mum and Mum's, because I'd been tossing up and arguing with my mum about running on the highway, because obviously the highway, they just cut through hills, like the highway is the highway from that Tailem Bend to Adelaide, and it's just the easiest route. They move, they went through mountains, they cut through hills, so there's not much elevation. And the route that I was running next to the highway was like fucking this disgusting elevation of probably the worst I'd faced in the entire run, up and down these massive hills. And I'm looking as I'm running next to the highway, it's just flat elevation. I'm thinking to myself, I'm so angry that I'm running in here now. But yeah, I did run on the highway for a little bit from Tailem Bend to Mali Briggs. And yeah, you soon find out that it's probably not worth the
risk.
No, not at all. Yeah, not at all, because I'll generally run on the right-hand side of the road so I could see it was coming, but it was hard to do that on that highway because it was 2 double roads. So you just, and then yeah, sometimes as well, if you got caught in them wind corridors and you are running on the left-hand side of the road, it can, if you have a B double or something run past you, they can pick that wind up and they just push you and you fall over. I had a few times where I had them come real close earlier on the trip when I was running from Melbourne to Geelong, and they would push you out like that, and it would be a really weird feeling, and you'd stumble over and have to get back up.
These are all the things that most people watching at home would have no idea about. Just all the extra little challenges on top of the already massive challenge of running.
Yeah, mate. It was, well, I guess we'll go over it in this podcast.
Will, yeah.
And
I'm sure there's lots of them.
Yeah, there definitely are. Mate, it started, what was it, the 1st of May now, and thank God we did it, ended up doing it in May, because April just turned out to be quite a hot April. Especially in Adelaide, you know, we were having 22, 23, 24 degree days, and when I was running out on the road, it was like some days would be 14, no cloud cover, and it could have been 50 or 60 on that road. That's what it felt like, but it wasn't at all. You know, when we would stop, my wife and mum would be in, my wife would have a beanie on, a jumper on, and I'm just got my shorts on and my nerd belt, which had water in it and no top, just dying. So lucky we did do it, mate, in May.
Yeah.
For future events as well, you know, I probably will be targeting that May to August time.
Yeah.
But yeah, mate, started off in May. We were talking about before, actually, a little bit sick.
Talk me through the trip over.
We flew over there with Mum and my wife Steph. A few days before, I started just feeling a little bit weird and off, like I'd had a little bit of a flu or something, probably a bit of a man cold or something like that. But I remember us getting the Winnebago, and we went and bought a whole bunch of shopping to get ready for the trip. And I went to get out of the Winnebago. I'm not feeling right here, so I actually set up the bed in the Winnebago and fell asleep, which I don't normally do. I'm not a great sleeper during the day or anything like that, but it was just my body being like, hey, you need a rest.
That's generally a sign for you that you're not well if you're falling
100%.
asleep during the day.
Yeah, even now.
Yeah.
I just feel like I want to sleep now. I get massive. Like the highs and lows that I experience now with how I'm feeling, just in regards to, I wouldn't say health, but energy, like my energy levels.
Yeah.
I would have a coffee and I'd go on this massive high, and then like 30 minutes later, I'm like, I can't do anything. I'm so tired. And it's like this lazy energy I've been explaining to people. It's like I have anywhere from 5 to 10 beers every night, which I'm definitely not doing. I actually had a couple glasses of wine the night after, but I was in bed by 8:30 and slept brilliantly that night. But every single day now, I'm waking up like I've had 5 to 10 beers a night. And it feels like it's just compounding as well. Like it's almost getting a little bit worse and stuff. I have this brain fog that, like I can see clearly, but I don't feel like I can, like I don't, my mind doesn't feel like it's seeing clearly, if you know what I mean. Which is super awkward as well. And people might even hear it in my, tone of voice or how I can recall, just right now, like how I can recall stuff. I'm just a bit slow on everything. You know what I mean? Like it's like you're talking to a hangover guy that's had a few beers the night before. He's a bit slow with everything. So apologies for anyone like that. But I just sort of feel like that now. But that's sort of how I felt starting the run. But that cleared up after probably day 2 or day 3. I just got into this survival mode.
Before we get to day 2 and 3, can you tell me a bit about what it feels like to be about to embark on a 24-day long run whilst feeling unwell and being sick? Like psychologically, what does that feel like?
Yeah. To me, it was happening either way, and it had to happen. We couldn't delay it any further. The biggest point of that was obviously my wife being pregnant. We already delayed the run by a month. And I was so fit and ready to go on that run that I actually feel a bit robbed of how I ran the event in the end because of that injury and how it was delayed. I lost a lot of conditioning, lost a lot of fitness. But it didn't really affect me because to me, either way, I was getting done.
Yeah. So you weren't sitting there questioning whether you were going to be able to do it. Was there any doubt before you started? When you arrived in Melbourne, you were about to kick off. Was there any doubt in your mind that it was getting done, or none at all?
Yeah, there was a bit of doubt, and that was only because of calf injury. So that calf injury that I was holding, I had 4 or 5 runs before I started the event, and I thought to myself as well, I'm not confident on this. I was even strapping up my ankle to minimise the ankle movement in my in that right leg to try and minimise that calf issue. And I did a few runs, and I just remember telling Steph right before we started, I'm not confident that this thing's going to hold up the first 50, let alone the next 1,042. But, we started, and we just took a really, really slow pace for that first 20K. I had a guy join me that follows me. He wants to go to the DRS program, which I did in the military, and he just reached out. He's like, hey, mate, from Bendigo, I'd love to pick your brain for a couple of hours. Can I come join you on the run? And I'm like, 100% you can come join me on the run.
Props to that guy for being the first one to rock up and get on board with you and go for a run. What's his name, Sam?
Yeah,
Sam as well?
Yeah.
Good on you, Sam.
He'll probably be listening to this podcast. He listens to all of them. But he was great value. And he literally, because I have so many people message me about the military and all this stuff, and it's really hard to get back to people with sort of how busy I am and how busy I was on a run as well. So for someone to come up and just say, hey, mate, can I just pick your brain and just run with you? I'm like, 100% you can. Like, if you're willing to run 30K with me, that'll be 3 hours worth of running at the start when I was running good times. I was like, yeah, sure you can. And that's literally what he did. He literally was like, hey, man, I'm joining the military. Tell me everything you need to know. And it made that 30K so easy. Running out of Melbourne. But yeah, we got out of Melbourne, which is like getting in and out of main cities.
How'd you find running in, was that CBD?
Yeah.
Yeah? How'd you find running through there? Was that a lot of stop-start? Or?
Yeah, heaps. To be honest, probably one of the most...
You survived the essays?
Yeah, well, we ran right through into a Footscray. And, obviously I do a bit of talk on...
You do? Yeah.
I do a bit of commentary on that area on my social media platforms. But no, we ran right through it, no issues at all. Getting out of the main cities and from it's hard because you can't run on the main road, so you just got to take a lot of sort of back street type roads. But we got out of Melbourne, and then my mum was like, "This is the route you got to run," and it hadn't been updated on Google Maps yet. And she ran me right into government property, which was like it must have been like a sewage water plant.
A place you're not meant to be.
A place you're not meant to be, but obviously, so I just jumped the barbed wire fence.
Of course you did.
Just kept running. And then I jumped another barbed wire fence, and a guy seen me, and I'm like, man, I just need to jump this barbed wire fence and go there. He's like, I can't let you do it. There's cameras here and here.
Yeah.
I could probably get sacked for it. And I'm like, well, I don't want that to happen. So I stopped my watch, and that's why there was 2 time frames on my first day.
I remember that.
Yeah, so I stopped my watch and saved that one, and I said, well, where are you going to drive me? He's like, well, I got to take you 6K backwards. So I ended up running an extra 4 or 5K that day than we had to.
That's exactly what you want at the start of a 1,042K run.
Yeah, that's it.
Take you backwards, start again.
But we sort of made it up on the route as well, because we're like, days were like, well, we're actually supposed to run into this city, but if we hang it right here, it'll be 5K shorter. So
okay.
It added up anyway. But he dropped me back on the main road that runs from Geelong to... runs from Melbourne to Geelong. So that was my first experience of having mass traffic and me running on the left-hand side of the road, which was with it, which I've soon found out that was a big mistake. I needed to be running the right-hand side of the road to see what's coming, but I didn't know. And that was when I had a lot of B-doubles and doubles and caravans and stuff like that get ultra close to me, and just the wind they had and the back trail that they would push, and and they'd almost they'd either like spin you, like you get like a bit of a spin, or you would like trip your feet up and you would sort of have to catch yourself from falling over. So that was my first experience with that. I also ran out of water on that time as well, because I was supposed to meet mum and that in 3 or 4K. This guy dropped me 10K back. They couldn't double back because it was on a main road, so I had to make 12K up. After
so you weren't prepared for it from a hydration point of view?
Nah.
Yeah.
Well, like we would have been very prepared.
Yeah.
If I'd been able to run, because they were only a couple of K down the road, but he dragged me back, and then I had to run an extra 8 or 10K or something, just without water after I'd done a marathon.
That's what you want.
Yeah, so that was a great start. But then when I got there, my mum, I think we're at K52, and she's like, all right, we're going to finish up for the day. And I'm like, nah, like let's run further.
Yeah.
And then we ran to 57K, and I was going to go further again, but, you know, mum being ultra conservative and Steph sort of being like, yeah, let's sort of wrap this thing up and get to the accommodation. We wrapped up day one. And then, got into our accommodation, and, I didn't really take the outside of running too serious in those first few days, and it really came to bit me on the ass.
Yeah, okay. And I'm sure we'll get into that shortly.
Yeah, and that was probably one of the main things that I was naive with.
Yeah, okay.
And then, mate, then we rolled on to day two. I woke up feeling good.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
So the day, I think it was the morning of, maybe it was the morning of or the night before you started. Obviously, you were a crook, and I asked you a question. I said, "Is it even possible to get better while you're running?" And your answer made me laugh. It was, "We're going to find out."
Yeah.
Can you answer what? So you got better while you're running?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I woke up really sick day 3.
Right.
Really, really sick. And when you start running these events, it's like your body goes into some sort of survival mode. It's happened before with me with 100K races or 115K races. Your body just goes into this mode of survival, and it sort of lets you only worry about the things you need to worry about. So that sickness, when I started running, it sort of went away, and I didn't really feel too much of it, and I slept quite well that first night. I had a temazepam, and I had a whole bunch of them on the trip, but they were great to get me to sleep for 45 minutes. But after that, it would just be, I'd be getting shock woken up, but we'll get into that later. After I got a good night's sleep, I actually felt all right on day 2, and I was, started running, and it was a good time. So that sickness didn't come back until day 3. But it sort of come and go a little bit. But when you're running like that, your body just goes into this sort of survival mode where it just puts these issues sort of behind you. If it's not a serious sickness where like you can't get out of bed, it was one of those sicknesses of like I'm coughing, I'm sneezing, a little bit of hot and cold sweats throughout the night, but it's not going to stop me from operating. But yeah, mate, we got into day 2, and I was running really, really well. Mum and my wife were like, we'll meet you 5K down the road. And I just ran straight past them and just said, just send me 12K down the road. The first couple K were hard, quite hard. And I thought to myself, this is going to be tough. But once your body sort of develops into that running, and I found out this more and more throughout the course, those mornings became less and less harder. Yeah, like they became really, really hard. Really hard from days 3 to 12. But after days 3 to 12, that morning soreness of me feeling like someone is hitting me with a hammer in my knees and ankles and shins, like that just went away. And it went from dealing with it for like the first 10K to like 8K, 9K. And then after, on my last few running days, it was like I'd run 200 meters down the road, and I just felt fine.
And by that stage, you felt warm and loose, and that pain had subsided.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
But I had a bit of a calf injury day 2 on the inner left calf, which is very traditional for me. It's an old ankle injury I had from footy where I probably should have had some type of time off or surgery on it, but I just didn't. So it's just historic for me, and it always lingers around. So that sort of flared up a bit. And then we ended up knocking out 52 or 53K that day, and we ended up in Torquay. And Sam, the guy that ran me the first day, reached out to his mate who was an osteo.
Right, yeah. So that's how you found that osteo in
Yeah,
Torquay.
yeah. And again, they refused to take my money and love what I was doing. But he was really, really good. He sent me, he sent me a bunch of information that I need to be doing for my feet. And that was my wife every single morning and night doing these foot exercises to activate my feet, which became a valuable part of my recovery and getting ready to run in the morning. So he was great. He also gave me some good advice on the calf, and he just said, this is an injury, but it's not an injury from you running. It's just like a sustainable thing over time that's gradually come in. So he goes, with a few exercises and stretches and warming up properly, he goes, this will play itself out over the next few days. And it did. He was exactly right. It just completely went away over the next couple of days, but everything else came in on the next few days. And I remember waking up day 3 and feeling like I'd had like I just sculled straight vodka like all night, and that was when the pain started.
Yeah, that was when hell started to set in.
Yeah. I mean, getting started that day, that's when I thought to myself, "Fuck, this is going to be a lot, not tougher than I thought, but like this pain is." I hadn't felt this type of pain physically before. Maybe a couple of times in Afghan when we would be walking for days on end, but I haven't felt this type of pain before and been alone by myself. I think the difference was, especially in the army, military, and being overseas in Afghan, you've been through that pain before, but you've done it with people. So it's so much easier, and you can laugh about it.
You're with the tribe,
and
there's others going through it as well.
Yeah, and you can joke about it, and you're bonding over it, and you're not doing it for yourself. You might be doing it for the person next to you, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was the first time where it was like, okay, this is me now, and yeah, there's no one else. Like the only rest you get is every 5K or every 10K.
Yep.
When we reach the cars.
And what sort of thoughts are going through your head on this morning? So day 3, you've got through over 100 Ks already, and you've woken up in a lot of pain, knowing really the bulk of your mission still to go. What sorts of thoughts are going through your head before you start running and get through that?
Yeah, I remember thinking to myself the start of that day, and I may have said it on one of my because obviously we did the opening story on Instagram, we did a closing story on Instagram every day about how I'm feeling, and I think I remember saying on day 3, my hand was shaking all over the place. I had shakes, hot and cold sweats, was not feeling good, and I remember thinking to myself, if you want to be worth anything in this world, it's days like today that you get up and get shit done. And that was my thought pattern all day. And I just thought to myself, not that I care about my outside persona of what people think of me, but as I would say as a proud person, how do you want to look back on this moment? Do you want to look back on it and think to yourself, yeah, you let your body get the upper hand of you, or did your mind win that battle?
And isn't that so applicable to not just running, but the challenges that a lot of your people face in their roles, in their job, in their personal lives, where they're presented, there comes a point where it feels probably too overwhelming to keep going. But that doesn't mean it's over.
Exactly right. Yeah. And I just said, once I got going that day, I think we had our first stop at 5K as like a, hey, how are you feeling sort of thing. And then we had the next stop at 12 or 13K. And I remember getting through that 5K, right at the end of that 5K, and I've been able to run freely. And I thought to myself, yeah, okay, so what you're about to do, this is all doable now. Because if I'd held that pain for 50K, which actually did happen a couple of times in that days 4 to 8. But I did think to myself, and that was never that when I had any doubt, but I got more and more confidence throughout it. I'd be okay, this is actually doable. I can actually do this now. You get a sense of confidence, you run faster here, and you get a bit of up and about it. How about you? So,
did you find that on still talking about day 3? Did you find that when you were about to set off, that your goal at that point was your 5K or 10K checkpoint. So in essence, breaking what is a huge run down into 5Ks. I've just got to make it there, and then we'll reassess. Was that a part of your I guess mental approach?
Yeah, that's pretty much how it became. It became very evident like that after we really got into a groove as a team as well. About when we had my eating points, my breaking points, but yeah, we just worked in 5 to 10K blocks pretty much the whole time. Days 4 to 8 were different. We started working in 2 to 3K blocks because I was done.
So as it got harder, you're breaking those short-term goals down even smaller, more achievable. And each time you complete one, it's a win. That's helping fuel you for the next one and the next one.
And mate, some days, honestly, 200 meters down the road could have been 200 kilometers. Like that's how hard it was to move some days, especially when we didn't know how to use bits of kit to compensate my Achilles and my shins. We just weren't prepared for that.
So there's a lot of learning going on while you're running, isn't there? Because what you were doing by day 10 and 15 was very different from day 1 to 4.
So we were just problem solve. So the first 3 days weren't hard. The end of the first 3 days was the end of day 3 was the first time I thought to myself, fuck, I've got an injury here. And I thought, I'll be able to wake up the next day and be fine. Because that's what I'd done the previous 2 days. But my left Achilles was really banged up. And I went to bed that night, woke up in the morning, and I hadn't done any work on my ITBs. So obviously the ITBs are the muscles that run outside the upper leg between your quad and hamstring muscles on the outside. And if that gets tight, your knees just become almost unusable. So I hadn't done any stretching or any work on that, apart from my normal stuff. What we did do later was got a massage gun and just ram that thing out for 20 minutes a night, and it just worked perfectly. I mean, I wish I was prepared, and I wish I knew this stuff when we were doing it. But anyway, you live and learn. But I started day 4, and that's when the problems hit. Day 4 took us almost 9 hours to get 42K out. And we ran from Lawn to Apollo Bay. And at the end of Apollo Bay, that's when my left shin started to blow out as well, like badly blow out. And that was my first sign of my shin problems.
Talk me through your experience of day 4.
Yeah, so day 4, I woke up not in a great headspace either. This is when, the sleep started to become pretty hard. I was actually having 2 temazepam at night now. But those temazepam, they were awesome to get you to sleep. But once I had woken up, it was like a whole nother world. And you just sit there in quite a bit of pain. We got into a really good schedule later on where I was actually waking up at about 12 and eating again. But my body, because I wasn't eating a great deal during the day, my body was just craving food all night. So I was waking up a lot during the night because I just wasn't eating enough during the day. Now, once your body adapts, at the end of the event, second half of the event, everything was easy. I would come in after 10K and be like, give me food. But before that, my body didn't want it.
Yeah, so days 1 to 4, struggling to eat during the day, body wants it at night when you really want to be resting. And it's interrupting your sleep and stuff like that.
I just didn't want to eat. Like I didn't feel like I needed to eat during the day because I was running. But the thing is, you have to force this down. I didn't realize that. I had to force this down. I had to force down food. Maybe if we had stretched it out, ran a little slower during those first few days, but I forced myself to eat and break, it would have been a lot better. Not that I wasn't eating a great deal, but I wasn't eating enough.
Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, day 4 was the first shock reality where I thought to myself, man, because you go through these highs up and down the whole time of like, are you going to get this done? Can this be done?
Yes, I can do it.
Injuries.
Can I really do this? Yeah, I've got this.
Yeah, and we went to take off day 4, and my left Achilles felt like it was going to snap, and my knees just felt like they just weren't working. Yeah. So I got 600 meters down the road. I called Mum and that up. I said, "You got to pick me up. This isn't working. I can't run like this." And I remember my mum saying to me, And she said it to me after as well. She's like, "Oh, in those days of 4 to 8, the amount of times that you just said, I wish I could just run freely. That was just, you just kept repeating that a lot. And that was the case. I just wish I could run freely, which just wasn't happening. There was too much pain. And like the pain I could deal with, but the feeling of, is my Achilles going to snap? That was one of the big ones. So we got on to my coach. My coach was like, you need to go get these heel lifts there at the pharmacy. The pharmacy didn't open until 9. We were starting running at about 6. And
so at this point, your mornings are starting at 6, yeah? Because that did change. That was one of the things that you changed.
That changed massively.
Yeah, all right. So you're wanting to kick off at 6. You need something. You can't get it till 9.
Yeah, so we just waited. We literally just sat around and waited. I had a coffee and threw in some more food.
Was that the first coffee you had on the trip? I remember seeing a video where you were like, oh, this coffee's great.
Yeah, no, that was the 12 Apostles.
Oh, was it?
That helped that day.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, we had... Yeah, we waited for the pharmacy to open, went in there, grabbed a whole bunch of stuff because we could not find them heel lifts. So the heel lifts are like this little plastic thing that is literally what it says. It's a heel lift. So it makes your Achilles shorter. So it means it has to work harder. But what that does is it puts a lot more pressure on your knees and shins. So what we did is we bought 2 knee braces as well. And that's where I wrote front towards enemy on them, which became a bit of a gag throughout the whole thing. And look, we put that together, and we bought a bunch of these gel cushion things, which people just use to put under their heels, and that's what we used as a heel lift. But we bought like 4 of them, and on one side, in the end, on one side, I kept. So we had 4 to start with, and then when the Achilles issues went away and the shin issues came, we put 2 in one and 3 in the other. So I was actually running higher on my left side, but it just worked out that I felt way more comfortable like that.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, we put them in, and I thought to myself, yeah, shit, I can, like, we can get moving again. And then, like, your morale is just up, and you're like, yes, like, you thought this event was over because you've done damage to your Achilles or anything like that. And yeah, I also remember looking down that morning and not being able to see my ankles. And they're just like bruised and brown and swollen, and thinking to myself, I can't fucking get moving. I've just run 160K in 3 days through pretty hard elevation. Yeah. This is going to be tough. But yeah, we got moving. We had this massive climb coming out of Apollo Bay. And that was the start of, just treacherous up and down, tough roads, all the way through to...
This is still day 4?
So
how many Ks you get out day 4 after going to the chemist, constructing all this stuff, and then getting back in on the horse?
Yeah, we got 23 Ks out that day. So that was in the afternoon.
Yep.
And I had an appointment at 3 o'clock for a massage therapist in Apollo Bay. So we sort of had to cut things short. Otherwise, I would have kept going. But that started days 5 to 8, which were just horrid.
The worst.
Horrid days.
Just physically or mentally as well?
Both. Both. Because you're feeling so shit. It's taken you 5 to 7 Ks to get going in the morning. One of the mornings, my mum and wife had to give me Panaline Fort, which just sent me you just don't feel anything. And I had 2 to get me started that day, because one day I just couldn't get started. I'm like, I can't move. Like, I need something here. So Mum whipped out Panaline 4 that she'd been hiding, and I only ever took it one day.
Yeah.
And because we decided that night as well, it made me run free, but it took away all the pain. So, like, if I were to just push it too hard and not listen to my body, I could tear an Achilles or something like that.
So you kind of need that feedback.
You do.
From the body.
You do. You can't just run that. I was essentially running like I was high or drunk.
Yeah.
Which isn't, it's not smart as well when you're trying to compete with trucks and cars.
No, not at all. And day 5, when this real few days of hell started, is that when you had that, it was taking a long time from the start of the run to when you started to feel in a groove again? Is that when that started?
Yeah. So that's when that's when it would take me, instead of taking me 5Ks to feel good. It started taking me 10Ks to feel good. But that slowly became less and less.
Yep.
But the thing is about days 4 to 8 was the weather hit.
Yeah.
It became really rainy, really windy.
Yep.
And because it was a westerly coming in from west to east, so everything just felt like it was head-on winds.
Yeah,
And it didn't matter what direction I was going in. I was heading in the one direction of west, which was to Adelaide, and everything just felt like it was head-on winds, which it was, and it just was piercing down with rain as well. But I still managed most days after the 22 day. I had a 47K day.
That's day 5.
Yeah, then I had a 50 or a 48K day, and then I had a 50K day in day 8. And it kept getting harder and harder. Like my shins were getting worse and worse. I think I did a few talk to screens in that time, and I was like, my fucking shins.
I remember seeing a video where you'd started running and you were trying to show people exactly what that first, I'll say a few Ks, but really it's probably the first 5 or 10, what that was like for you, and you're just swearing your head off.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. What was going on there?
Yeah, that's just how I would deal with it every day.
But what were you feeling? Like, describe it.
I just
because I've never felt that.
Yeah, it's probably. It just felt like Groundhog Day. And it was more frustration knowing what I'm capable of, being held back by injuries. Because a lot in my life, especially in footy, I've been held back by too many injuries. Not so much in the army. Army was different. I wasn't really held back too much there. But when I got out of the army and I've done these events, it's like every single running event I've ever done, I've always went in with some type of injury cover coming over my head. There's always been something wrong coming into it. Even this one, I had to delay the event by a month because of injury. So there was more just frustration in knowing what I'm capable of. And my body not tolerating it and not wanting to be there with me.
But you were in legitimate pain as well, beyond the frustration, weren't you? Those shins on those days when you're trying to start the run. I remember you describing it like a hammer in the shins or some sort of, the pain was excruciating.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
It just felt like someone was hitting me with a hammer in the shins and in the knees. But it's amazing what the body can adapt to. And get onto like honestly within probably the last week, that pain would be around. Actually, like that pain wouldn't even start. I would just get into running, and my main natural state, in that last 10 days was running. I felt more comfortable running than sitting or standing. Walking hurt more. Sorry, I felt more comfortable running than standing or walking. Sitting was great. But walking and standing hurt so much more than running in the end, which wild to think about when you're putting that many Ks.
Yeah.
But back to those days. Like I was still knocking out good Ks. And then we hit the 12 Apostles, and I had a mate that I was in the military with. He drove 4.5 hours. He took his kids out of school for the day. His wife took the day off. He took the day off. They met us at 7 a.m. at near the start of the Apostles, and he drove out and met me there. Now, for anyone that's listened to my podcast, I know the 29th of August was a pretty considerable day when we were overseas in Afghan. He was actually at that patrol base with Frenchie and Nilo. So he was very hands-on that night when they lost the 3 boys. So it was great to have him with me. And
he's the first person that's come to run with you since Sam on the first day.
Yeah.
So you've done. Are we talking day 12? Is that where we're up to?
No. This is day 8.
8.
8.
So from day 1 to 8, you've been doing it solo. Then your mates rocked up.
Yeah, and it was good. Really good to see him. Good to see his kids. One of his oldest daughters ran a bit with us. Throughout the day. But this day was brutal, mate. I hadn't experienced weather like this when I've run ever before. 60 to 70 kilometre headwinds. The 12 Apostles, which anyone knows, that stretch of road is just like you look around and there is no tree that grows over 4 foot.
It's exposed.
Yeah, because it is so windy there that if anything does grow up above shrub height, it instantly just gets ripped down. And it was, it was just bucketing down all day, headwinds of 60, 70 kilometres a day. And this is where this is where my shin pain really started. Like started badly as well. To the point where I thought that I was tearing a tendon or something bad had happened. But I just grit my teeth because I'm like, man, I've just had a mate drive 4.5 hours to come out. I'm not going to let him down. I'm just going to shut up and just, without any paneling forward, we've decided not to take that anymore. I was just going to grit my teeth, and we ended up getting 50k out that day. And I got better as the day went on. We were sort of running as the day got easier, although the weather didn't ease up or anything. But that was the coffee day. That was the day where his wife was like, "You guys want a coffee?" I'm like, yeah. So she went out and got some. I had some coffee, and it was like someone hit me with a shot of adrenaline. At about 20k in, and a lot of pain went away.
Yeah, right. So it made a difference to your pain level as well.
Massively, which was really interesting. But mate, yeah, that day was notorious, and the bloke I'm talking about, he'll be listening to this podcast. He fucking knows how tough that day was. Just it was shit.
Sounds like you were drawing on. You mentioned before about how a similar sort of challenge over in Afghan with the team. You can draw on the strength from the others, but you can also use them as motivation to not make excuses for yourself. And it sounds like, although it was only the two of you, some of that sort of started to play in where you didn't want to let him down. Yeah, and you're drawing on that for motivation.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said before, it's so much easier to suffer with someone. If you were to, like, I would have got through it with myself. I don't think I would have banged out 50k that day. I maybe got 40 or 45. But if I were to suffer with someone, it's just so much easier suffering someone else. Yeah. And like, if you've been through prior stuff together as well, you know what you're both capable of. So you just think to yourself, well, this is like, we can definitely get through this. We've been through worse. Yeah. So that was a good grounding point that day. But yeah, mate, it all fell over the next day. And when I mean fell over, I mean,
Day 9.
Yeah, that was the first day where I actually had tears in my eyes, calling up my wife, being like, I don't think I can do this.
I think this is a really important point to talk about. So day 9, talk me through that.
So we, and I was wrecked. I was wrecked that night. Like, you think about how hard it is to run 50k, but then add in, hundreds of meters, maybe 1,000 meters of elevation, and then 60-kilometer headwinds. It's like running fucking 100k. Like, it's just so much harder to push forward. I think some of my stories that day, I was talking and running, and like the feedback in the comments were like, how are you fucking running forward? Because it did, like, the wind was just so in our face. It was so powerful. It was like God himself was like blowing down on us. So yeah, that actually took it out of me. I woke up the next morning, maybe 1 or 2 hours of sleep that night, and I tried to get going, and nothing worked. Like, nothing worked like it had before on the run. So this time I thought to myself, I've done serious damage here in my shins. The Achilles are gone as well. I made it 500 metres down the road, and I called up Steph and said, you need to come and get me. That's when I was in tears. And so they came and got me. It was still freezing cold and it was still raining. So what we did is we just pulled over the side of the road. Mum made a coffee, and we just chilled out for half an hour. We just set that half an hour clock, chilled out, and so I could just regather some thoughts and think, just get in a better state of mind before I started running again. Had that coffee, got a bit warm, and then I thought, well, we got to start moving. So we went out and tried to run again. I actually got moving, and everything was sort of like, okay, like, I can do this. I just had a moment back there where I got a bit overwhelmed, but it's amazing what a break, a bit of warm shelter,
a bit of time and space,
and yeah, a bit of warm coffee can do to you as well.
Yeah. Did you have any conversations with your mum or Steph at that point when you're in that frame of mind where you're like, I don't think I can do this, and you're teary? Like, did you have to, or did you have any sort of feedback from them that helped pep you up, or was it just the time and space that? Yeah,
it was just the time and space. They didn't really say much. Like, I think, they both know me pretty well, obviously extremely well. Being my mum and wife, they probably know me better than anyone else on this planet.
Of course.
So they probably just knew that it was a moment. Like they didn't seriously think that, he's going to.
Yeah, all right.
So they just gave me my time, which they probably knew that I needed. So I just sat there, and they didn't push me at all. Be like, hey, we need to stop. We need to start moving. They actually probably, they would have knew that in me that, like I'm probably a bit too proud to say, oh, we'll just have this off. But there were moments throughout the first 10 days where I was saying to my mum, hey, mum, I think I need a day off. And mum would say throughout the day, yeah, we'll chat about it tonight. And then the next morning, lights were on, food was being made, and coffee was ready. And they were getting tape and that out ready for me to do my tape on my feet and stuff like that. So they would just like throughout the day they'd say to me, yeah, we'll think about having a day off tomorrow.
Not shut it down, but also
they wouldn't even
just
mention
crack
it.
on.
Yeah, they wouldn't even mention it. And I just think I remember waking up a couple of days being like, well,
guess I'm running.
Not having a day off. Which I think if I did have a day off throughout that time, it would have been so bad.
Yeah.
Because you just get put in that comfort zone. And when you get put in that comfort zone,
all the more harder to start going again.
Well, you just get too comfy and you think, wow, I've made it 400 Ks. That's a good effort.
Yeah.
But it's not finishing the job.
No, it's not.
Do you know what I mean? So, if I ever do these events again, definitely mum being there was probably a great thing because she just understands me really well and who I am. But she also understands where to like push and not push and to be like, well, look, like Sam knows it's in him. If he's just having a moment here where, he's having a few tears, which is like the first time I cried I can't remember the last time I cried. Maybe he just needs to, maybe he just needs a warm cup of coffee and a blanket around him for half an hour. And it's amazing what that headspace can do for you.
Absolutely. I think it's an important point to touch on, getting to that point of overwhelm, having a few tears and just go on, I just need to stop for a second. There's probably a lot of people that follow your podcast and watch what you do and are familiar with your attitude to life and getting things done. That might feel that you're, invincible and that's not you, but it's important for them to know that that's okay as well. And everyone's challenge, the challenges that someone might face that might bring them to that point are all different. Yours was this run. Someone else's might be something that happened at work, at their job, personal life relationships. And I think it's important to know that that's okay to have that moment. Yeah. You don't need to give up, but give yourself that moment.
Yeah, and sometimes you just need to sit down and have a cup of coffee and get warm. For other people, it might be you might need to go for a 5K run. You might need to get yourself out of that environment or out of that area or out of that job or anything like that, you just might need to take a step back from what you're doing, assess it from a different situation. That can definitely relate to life and relationships and sports you might play in or the workplace that you're in or something that you're trying to build or whatever. For me, there was the biggest example out of that run was like, I thought I was climbing this Everest of this 1,042K run. I was we hadn't even crossed halfway at this point. Maybe we were 380 Ks or something into it. And I just needed I needed half an hour. I needed half an hour for no one to talk to me. I needed a bit of room and just a warm cup of coffee. And I was and then I thought to myself, all right, let's get moving again. And we did. I banged out 15K that day. And then I felt a pain that I'd never really felt in my legs before. I actually felt the same sort of pain when I tore an ACL playing footy one time. I felt that in my shin, like someone had been we talk about the hammer stuff, but this one felt like a fucking cricket bat and bashing my shin. And it got to the point where it hit so hard that I fell over. And we were right next to we're about 25 Ks out of Warrnambool at this time. So after I had that moment that I cried and we sat there, I ended up getting 15K out. And then that's when the major injury set in. And I think that major injury set in because I just pushed so hard. And if I had known what that injury was and if we had the devices that we had later on in the race, I would have been able to hook that up and kept running. But because we didn't know, we didn't understand, we stopped it there because that's when when I was walking through the shops.
Couldn't walk properly.
Yeah, that's when I was walking through the shops that day that tendon in my shin stopped reacting completely.
Yeah.
So that stopped the muscle from activating, and I couldn't pull my foot back up to my body.
So you literally couldn't walk with a normal gait. You had to walk differently just to be able to walk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we did from there, Mum and Steph were ringing around like crazy trying to find physios. We could only get into one. And that was the one where I thought to myself, this guy has no idea what he's doing. But he turned out to be a fucking genius. He told me exactly what was wrong. And he was sort of, as he was explaining it to me, he was giving me evidence as well. He's like, okay, so this is happening here. And you've got pain here. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, okay, this is because of this. So he ended up giving me some good advice, what did he give us? They gave us about 100 meters worth of this rock tape, which is normally quite expensive. But the lady seen what I was doing on social media, and she was actually, it's a husband-wife business. So when we got out to pay, she's like, no, I'm not going to let you pay, and also we're going to give you all this stuff for free. So it was like hundreds of dollars worth of stuff for free. And they were sensational and fantastic. Got a photo with them. They posted on Facebook. I don't have a Facebook, but and they didn't have an Instagram. Otherwise, I would have given a massive shout out. But
yeah, of course.
Yeah, but what they did for the tape and how we taped my shins up, it just gave me that little bit of room
for the
blood to flow through and the tendon to activate again. And we changed shoes up. What we did is I went and bought some Puma shoes because I was running in Brooks's. And the Brookses were just that little bit heavier, and the Pumas were that little bit lighter.
And we're not talking much, are we? We're talking like grams.
Yeah, not much at all.
Yeah.
And they were lighter, and they made the world of difference.
Wow.
The world of difference. And we also strapped my right foot, because this is the one where it was smashing me, in a way. I had this like ankle strap, and we strapped it in a way where it pulled it back up to my feet. Pulled it back up to my body, so that shin didn't really have to activate. And once we got going, it took a little bit of adjusting, and because it took it put a fair bit of pressure back on the Achilles. So we had to play around with those Achilles, and that's where I ended up being higher on one and then low on the other. So we played around for fucking probably about 100 Ks over the next few days to get that perfectly right. But yeah, I ran through. And I finished that day, and then that's when I did the screaming, because
What a challenge to overcome.
Yeah, well, I just thought to myself, like, fuck, it was 12 hours ago. I thought, man, I'm coming back to Adelaide between my tail and my legs. I've literally done something. And the good thing was, whenever I walked into a massage therapist or osteo or physio, I just said, look, rest is off the table.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, what did the fella you just told me about in Warrnambool, you had a conversation at the start, didn't you, where he gave you some advice that you weren't going to take. Talk me through that again, because that was good.
Yeah, well, every single person that I went in and seen, their advice is like, well, you just got to rest.
You got to stop.
Yeah, this isn't going to get any better if you don't stop. Everything's just going to get worse. Like, your Achilles is going to get worse. Like, you can only have these fixes for a certain amount of time.
What'd you say to him when he told you to rest?
Yeah, I just said, mate, rest is 600k down the road. Like, you don't understand. I can't stop. There is no stopping. Every single day that we extend this out is like, it ended up being that I was hoping to have about $4,000 or $5,000 left over that I could donate to the fund from the sponsors. But every single day that we went over was costing us about another $1,000 in. Whether that be accommodation, the van hire, food, my wife being away from work. Do you know what I mean? Like, all this stuff compounds. So I just said, mate, we don't have an option to rest. So you need to give me advice to get me moving, get me down the road. And he's like, okay, this is what we can do. And it turned out to be the best advice anyone had gave me on the run. And we got more. Yeah, we got moving. And it was funny, every single time I seen a person after that, whether it be a massage therapist or someone like that, they would touch me and they'd be like, mate, you got to stop. And I'm like, mate, there's just like, rest is down the road. And they're like, all right, well, how are you feeling? I'm like, mate, I feel like I've been hit by a truck. I feel hungover. I feel like drained of energy. I'm getting no sleep. But there's only a one rate of rest, and this is probably obviously why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling now. I'm struggling to, I don't like, I'm not struggling to see, but I'm just struggling to connect the dots. I don't feel like the brain and the eyes are working in conjunction with each other. Do you know what I mean? I think something's slow up there. Like there's this brain fog that is sitting up there, and this is obviously away from me, for my body getting back into the normal things or normal routine of me just pushing myself so hard.
Yeah.
For so long. But yeah, I got at the end of the day, I got pretty emotional. I even had a few tears at the end of it, because it just, like, I knew what that day meant to be able to get that out. And I just thought to myself, like, if coming from where we came from after that, day 8 and 9, and then being able to run like I ran on day 10, it wasn't fast, but we got it. I just thought to myself, I'm like, we're back in this thing. This is now going to get done. I think at that stage we were floating around that 420k mark, so we're getting close to halfway. And then from there, I was, those days after that, we sort of, because we had all our accommodation booked as well for me to be running at 50k a day, but that fell back really quickly because we had missed them two days of running 22 and then another day of running 13 or 14, so we're behind schedule. So we had a bit of driving to do in those next couple of days because we didn't cancel accommodation because it was too late. But we did start to rethink our strategy after those days of like, okay, now, and Mum mentioned it, she's like, all right, fuck this 6 a.m. start shit. Like, we are sleeping until 6, then we're going to get up, we're going to have breakfast, we're going to relax, and we're going to get you running between 8 and 9:30. Some days it started to stretch out to 10 because we were just like, oh, let's just enjoy ourselves sort of thing. If we run later in the day, that doesn't really matter. And also as well, getting that cold morning start at like 6, 7 a.m., it was so much easier on the mind and body if I'm starting at 9.
Sun's been up for a while.
8:30. Yeah, so it was a lot easier. But after that, I mean, this may sound arrogant, but after that, running became easy.
Was that the sort of day 8 and 9 area the last time you had those thoughts? I don't know if I can finish this thing.
Yeah.
From that point on, after you've seen that bloke, you've strapped up, you've managed to get 50 k's out, you're over the moon. No more of those thoughts have come into your head from that day until the end? Not
one. It just became like, when I was in it, I just remember thinking to myself, it's like, all right, let's just work in blocks, because Adelaide is still almost 600 k's away, 450 k's away. And I just thought, we'll just work in blocks now. Like, let's just get to the SA border. From there, we'll get to Gambia. When we're in Robe, it's easy. Robe's a home stretch. Doesn't matter after that. Like the job is finished when I get to Robe. Running became like the hardest part of the entire situation after that became sleeping and what comes before and after running. And what came before running was I would wake up in good spirits. Even after getting a couple of hours of sleep a night, I'd wake up in generally good spirits. I would then start my morning routine of stretching, and I would be hit with this massive wave of just feeling hungover, and it's not even beer hungover, it's like dirty vodka hungover. And it would hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, right.
And I remember talking to a few people about this, and it's just your body's way of saying, mate, fucking stop.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't. I'm going to make you feel really, really sick until you stop doing this. But once I started running, that feeling would go away within.
Once I knew it hadn't won and it wasn't getting a rest.
Within about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
It was wild. That would go away. It was quite insane.
Insane.
And then probably sleep. Like I said before, running became the easiest part of my day after that. It became joyful. Apart from a couple of incidents along the way where, because the right shin had blown out, the left one was still okay at this stage, and I had a couple of moments there where we hadn't yet used a device to help that left shin. The tape was doing good enough, but once we started to up the Ks and run faster for more consecutive days in a row, that shin started to blow out late in a couple of days. And I thought to myself, we don't need the device I'll be all right.
Mm-hmm.
And I put up with it for probably 2 days longer than I should have, which was being like 3 days overall. And once we used that device, I mean, I got 5K running down the road and I thought to myself, oh my God, why didn't I use this fucking 2 days ago?
What was your nighttime, not just your nighttime, but your actual routine between finishing your run and starting the next day? By, we're talking between day 10 and 13-ish.
Yeah. By
that stage, what is your routine to be able to keep going as you were?
Yeah, so pretty much straight after the run, I would get in, and by that stage as well, my body had started to function into running 45 to 50K a day. So I was eating a lot more. And you would have seen from the photos, I looked super lean in days, like when I got my shirt off from days probably 9 to 13 or 14, I was super lean. I lost a lot of weight. I wasn't eating well during the day, and I wasn't supplying enough of enough fuel to my body.
Up until that point.
So when I ran my shirt off a few times, I looked super lean on it. And then as you can see, when I'm running further into the event, it actually looks like I lost that leanness because I was putting a bit of weight back on because I was eating so well. But what I do during the run is obviously we get up and have breakfast.
What are you eating?
I would have a couple bits of toast. My wife would make me this massive smoothie with just packed of just peanut butter. There'd be bananas. There would be berries in there. Sometimes some Milo. Just calorie dump the shit out of that thing. And I would just scull that, a couple bits of bread, have coffee. Get running, and at about 10 to 12K, I started to get starving. So my body was like, hey man, if we're going to be running, you need to be eating. At about that 10 to 12K point, I was throwing down food where traditionally I wasn't doing that until like K35 in the first 10 days. But after that, I was throwing that down. Then
what sort of food?
It was like toasties, sandwiches, croissants, and then at about K25 to 30, I'd throw down another toasty croissant or like a wrap or pasta, something like that. And then
so nothing really fancy, just the same sort of stuff you want if you're out and about at home.
Because what we're doing is we're just every single morning we were going to a cafe in the morning and we're ordering all our food for the day.
Yeah, okay.
So it was all
grab what they had.
Yeah, it was always just like, if they had sausage rolls, they had sausage rolls or something like that. So I wasn't eating anything outside the norm. But every 5 to 10K as well, Mum would just have a whole bunch of lollies, biscuits, cheese with biscuits, apples, bananas, just a smorgasbord. Whatever I wanted, I just grabbed out and I would just eat. Now, in that days 10 to 14, I was actually stopping and eating. And then when it became days 14 onwards, I was just grabbing, walking and eating because my body just turned into something that
just wanted to keep moving.
Yeah, and it was phenomenal what it turned into, which is we'll get to it later. But I feel like I've sold myself short a bit with the run, which is crazy. But
we'll get to that.
Days.
What are you drinking during your running? So we're still on the run. What are you drinking?
Yeah, so
I noticed you had a little thing on you.
Yeah, so I had the Nerd Belt, which is one of my good mates. He's the founder and owner of that. So I had the Nerd Belt, which held 200 mils of water. But what we did is we had this powder that you put in, and it's just electrolytes and carbs. So yeah, it's like every single thing that I'm doing. I'm not drinking plain water. I'm drinking water that had carbs in it. So, electrolyte and carbs down all the time. It didn't taste great, but every single time you're drinking, you're also getting in carbs the entire time. So that was, that's also a very smart tactic to use as well. You don't really drink water. If you're going to drink something, it has to be full of electrolytes and carbs. More importantly, the carbs, because you just want to be making sure you're getting fuel down all the time.
Did you find there was a place for Posca in your daily running routine?
Yeah, when I started
because that was a surprise, wasn't it?
Yeah. When I started to push myself harder, and I got to stages more or less early on, and then later on when I was pushing myself hard, running hard, I would start to vomit. and food and water would come back up.
Yep.
And when I'd get in and see my mum and wife at 5 or those 5 to 8 or 10k slots, I'd slam down a Posca and it would settle everything down. It was actually quite amazing.
Yeah, okay.
What it would do. Now I don't obviously, whether that be the red wine vinegar or whatever they have in here, it fucking and I'm not just saying this because they helped me out and they were a sponsor, and Merrick Watts is a good human coming on my podcast and supporting me with their business. But mate, it fucking worked to really calm myself down and to calm my stomach down.
I remember that video.
Yeah, through times because in these things you can get knocked out by injury, but if you get knocked out by like a stomach bug because you can't run because you're vomiting, that's just as worse. So whenever I needed it, and we had these on hand at all times, cold, ready to go. Whenever I felt like vomiting or did vomit, I'd slam that down and it would calm down my stomach.
And after your running day's finished, you finished your run for the day. What's your routine from then until waking up and starting the next morning?
Straight after the run, I'd have this euphoric moment.
Yeah, we talked about that, didn't we?
Yeah, and it would be 45 minutes after the run. I'm still jacked up, still full of adrenaline, and I would sit in the car and I would ice both my shins and we'd drive to wherever we needed to drive to. Sometimes it was an hour, sometimes it was 15 minutes or whatever. But it was also a time where I got to check my phone throughout the day and just see the flood of messages come in, and of support and all that sort of stuff. And my mates tagging me in funny things and stuff like that. But it was this moment that I started to chase every day. That feeling, that 45-minute feeling of after you finish a 45 to 50k a day, I started to chase that every day. And then every single day after that, I would just dream about that, sitting in the car after I've just taken my shoes off. I've just checked out my feet. I'm stinking, I'm sweaty, I'm just a disgusting mess. I chased that feeling every single day. And every single day, when I would get to that feeling, it got better and better throughout the event. And it was like, that was a pure form of ecstasy that I would have after every run. It's so hard to explain to people that weren't there on the event. And like you get it, like runners get it all the time after they finish these massive events, but like times that by 1,000 and then every single day. And then, people run these one-day events, right? And like they don't get the morning sickness. They've slept well the night before. But imagine that, 800 Ks into it and you're getting no sleep. You're getting this like hungover feeling that, you've probably only had once, twice in your life because you've only drank that much or whatever. And then you get up to run.
And the pain and the injuries you've been dealing with for the last 10 days. Yeah,
and you're just running on a road that's endless. And then you get to this point where you finish the run and it's just like...
It feels amazing.
And it just got better every single time.
But then that came to an end once you got to your accommodation, didn't it?
Yeah, and that came to an end when you try to get out of the car. Like when you just realise everything's seized up. It's like 45 minutes ago I was running at 6 kilometre Ks. Now I can't even get up and get out of the car. Now I need my pregnant wife to walk at the back of the Winnebago and help me up and help me out of the car. And that's when like reality hits.
Euphoric moment gone.
Yeah.
Reality sinks in.
Yeah, and then everything from there is just like, okay, what can I do to get my body right to be able to run 45 to 50k the next day?
And what does that look like? Summarise that.
Yeah, so we pretty much got in and whilst I was on that car ride home, I was eating. So, there would be, and it would be heaps. There would either be leftover pasta or there'd be, whatever I'm eating throughout the day, I'd be smashing that. I'd smash down two Poscas, 2 to 3 Poscas. Which just got that energy back in as well. Well, not the energy back in, but the electrolytes back in. It calmed my stomach down. But yeah, I would have a shower. I'd spend fucking 40 minutes in showers sometimes because it just felt so good. And I'm also in the shower with some scissors. If there's any blisters that have arrived, I'm cutting them blisters.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that. We'll get to that after.
Yeah. But if there's any blisters that have arrived, I'm cutting them at the side to ensure that they're getting all their fluid that has built up is flowing out. And I'm just cleaning myself, and then I get out and I found the nearest tub and we had bags of ice and I was putting my feet in Yeah, just a fucking tub with ice, making sure I'm getting my shins in there, and doing that for 8 minutes. Then after that, I would generally get into like a soft stretching routine for half an hour. And in between that time, every 3 days we'd be making a reel. So I'd have to sometimes make a reel, or Steph would do it and I'd do the voiceover, which took about half an hour, but that wasn't too bad. And then we were eating, and I was just constantly eating. And then we were sort of mapping out the next day sometimes. And then I was massage gunning.
And that's the ITB.
Yeah. So I was doing that for half an hour on pretty much all my legs. And then I would strap because I'd take all my strapping off after I run. Then I would re-strap my shins, everything before I go to bed. And then I would, go to bed. And I'd wake up 45 to an hour, hour and a half later. That generally seemed to be that sort of spot. I was in bed by
That's an intentional wake up, or that's the body just waking you up?
Body waking up. I was in bed by about 9 o'clock, 8 to 9 o'clock. I'd say I was probably asleep by about 9:30.
Yep.
If I would wake up at around 11:30, then I'd generally eat. But I had an alarm set for 1 a.m. every morning. So if I woke up at 11:30, I'd use that 11:30 as that 1 a.m. time. But I would go out and I would ice. Before I went to bed, I would do another ice session on my ankles.
So a second ice session for the evening?
A second ice session on my feet and ankles. And then, obviously go to bed. And then my alarm would go off at 1 a.m. And it started to get to the point where I just couldn't get out of bed at 1 a.m. So Steph would get up. She would go grab all the ice and bags of peas, throw it all over me. She would heat my second dinner up, because what we'd do when we go out to dinner, we'd order dinner. We'd go buy a second dinner as well, like a bowl of pasta or something, and I would eat that again at 1 a.m. because I just woke up so hungry.
Yeah.
And then I would, then the battle would start again to get back to sleep.
So you're icing, you're eating, and then trying to get back to sleep, knowing that in a few hours you're going to be up and do it all again. Yeah.
And then generally it was just broken sleep, rolling over, hot and cold sweats all night. We tried one night not setting my alarm, but I was up at fucking 12 anyway, just starving, so hungry. So it just didn't matter if we set alarms or not. I needed to get food in. Yeah. And my stomach actually started to shrink as well, obviously because I wasn't taking in enough food, so I couldn't eat that much over at dinner because I was just too full. So I'd have to go again a few hours later. And then, I'd normally toss and turn, and then I would just struggle to get out of bed at about 6 a.m. every morning. But like, as you know, as people would probably seen and they would know, once you get getting out of bed probably became one of the hardest parts of the day. But once you start to get moving, and I start my massage gun routine, I did my stretching routine, I had breakfast, I had a coffee, I started to, do all my feet and strap my feet up and, get sheep's wool and start to put Vaseline on them. The body physically was like, okay, we can do this, but it was just like mentally saying, no, here's real hungover sickness. And that didn't shake all up until the last day where I had to run 15k downhill. That was still there with that.
And what's there? Sorry, we haven't talked about the Vaseline and sheep's wool. What part of the process does that fit into? Me not being a runner, I got no idea.
Yeah, so not many people know this, but if you get bad blisters, what you do is you get a whole bunch of Vaseline. What you do with your blisters, if there's a blister and you got a bad blister, you need to pop it in a corner and leave the outer skin on it. That's going to act as a barrier, whilst that skin underneath gets hard and forms like a callus. So you pop it, and you do the same thing with your toenails, right? You
talk about that in a minute.
You pop below the toenails to get that pressure out. That's like day 2 or 3 or something. You would have seen the squeezing of the blood out there. Those toenails fell off a few days later. But with blisters, you just got to make sure that you cut it in the corner, pop it, and then when you go to put it on the next day, smother it with Vaseline, and then put sheep's wool over it, and then put a bit more Vaseline over it, and that's going to act as like a third layer of skin now, and then tape it. Just get a bit of tape and just You don't have to tape around your foot or anything. Just tape over that little bit, and then throw your socks on. And I'm telling you,
Good to go.
Yeah, it's the sheep's wool. Because we started wrapping my toes in it as well. Because all my toes, the bottom of my toes and the end of my toes, they all just formed blisters. I remember one day taking my sock off, and it was just because my feet started to swell. We had to go up a size in shoe, and we knew after that moment that we had to go up a size in shoe because all my toenails all my toes were just blisters on the end of them.
Yeah, right.
So we had to pop all those, but we just wrapped all them with sheep wool and Vaseline, and we're fine.
And you did mention the toenail that come off. I remember seeing a video of you popping. I don't know what it is. You can talk me through it, but I've never seen that before. What was the deal with that?
Oh, that's just when your toe is continuously bashing up against something.
Yeah.
It's obviously the pressure behind the toenail, which is it's dragging fluid into there to protect it. And it's just so much easier when you release that fluid and then you just wrap it with sheep's wool and Vaseline and get on it. So
that video where you pop the blister is it under the toenail, or where is that thing that you popped and squirted it out?
Yeah, it's just under, just right behind the toenail, because because the toenail ends up lifting off.
Yeah,
and there's just fluid that goes in under it.
The fluid's under the nail.
Under the nail, so it just doesn't.
Okay, so same principle with the blisters on the feet, just under the nail.
Yep.
And that fell off a couple of days later.
Yeah, I remember pulling that off about 10 days later.
Yeah.
I can't remember the reason I pulled it off is because I went into this. It's because I went into the ocean and it started to lift off a bit. Normally I'd leave them on because they're just good protection. But it started to lift off a bit, and a bunch of sand got in between and under my toenail. And I just remember thinking and looking at it going, this is just going to cause friction when I run tomorrow, and it's going to be hell. So I just got it and I ripped it off that night. Luckily, it wasn't even the thing had already pretty much come off, so it wasn't rooted in at all. So I ripped it off, and there was so much sand underneath it that I'm lucky I did. I ripped it, cleaned it, and then the next day we just put a whole bunch of Vaseline on it, wrapped it with sheep's wool, and kept going.
Good to go.
It just worked out to be fine. I remember. Yeah, I just had recent trouble with it a couple of days ago because my dog Milo got excited and she put one of her toenails through that and cracked. There's like a big blood blister on it at the moment, and she put a toenail directly through it while it's trying to heal. So it's went all mangly again. But
that's disgusting.
Yeah, it is. But mate,
routine.
Yeah, but after.
So we're heading towards the SA border now.
Yeah. So obviously, that was a cool moment. I had a mate from school reach out to me when we got to Mount Gambier. Again, just people that know that we're in the industry. He works for O'Connor's, when they do defence contracts in Adelaide. They're a building business, and paid for the 3 days we're in Mount Gambier. Set up a tab for us whilst we were at where we're at. Whilst we're at Mount Gambier, and free food and lunches for the entire time we're there. Helped us out with petrol money as well. So it was just really good, people giving us these sort of things. And
was that the day after I saw you?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And it just worked out that these things along the way, the run would have ended up costing me quite a bit of money out of my own pocket. But because of these people, it didn't. So we actually came in within $50 or $60.
Wow.
To the donations to the sponsorships that we got forward, and so it was quite amazing like that. But obviously, there was a massive point for me when I crossed back into South Australia. Just to know that there was so much hard work behind me done, and that it became. I just knew that everything was going to become easier.
It was a fairly significant milestone in the journey to make it back to your home state. Yeah.
So that was obviously the cool part as well, and to do it with yourself, someone that is obviously understanding of everything that's happening with the run and obviously with Aussie Frontline as well. So that was a cool moment to share.
It was.
But you just straight away when you pass and start running again, you get this euphoric high, and you're like, well, we're still 500 k's down the road, sort of thing. So
we can celebrate, but it's not done yet.
Yeah, that's it. So you just start running, and then the slow grind just starts again of just each and every day you're just staring at 45 to 50k down the barrel, and you're just working them little. You're just working those little sections. You get those little wins throughout the day. Starting becomes easier.
Yeah.
And that euphoric moment of finishing every day, like you just chase that every single day. It's like a drug, that in these events that you're fed, and it keeps you moving every single day. Like what kept me moving is knowing that I'm going to get home soon and this is going to be over. But like when you're in it and home is so far away,
that's your short-term goal, isn't it?
What keeps you moving is that like that 45 minutes in, and end of every day, right after the run, those were special moments. And like Steph would put on this, like you've conquered the world type music.
Yeah. What a legend.
And it was you just sat
celebrate.
There.
Absolutely.
Like, that's it. It's like a footy team playing footy. Like you just you celebrate. Like you have the goal of trying to win a grand final.
Yep.
But when you win every week, you're going to celebrate. You're going to sing the song, and you're going to be like, "Yep, that's another 4 points on the board."
Yep. 100%.
So that was really cool. But the hardest part of the day then just became, my nighttime routine. The easiest part of the day became running. I did, but around Beachport, I had my left shin blow up badly, and that's where we use that device to wrap around. And once I used that, running became super easy. And my shin from that time, then the next day I started to get mass pain in my shin at K30. The day after that it was 35. The day after that was 40. The day after that it was 45. And then the last 5 days, it would come and go, but it just wouldn't affect me.
And the whole time you're getting fitter, your stats are showing that despite all of this challenge, your heart rate's going down. You're actually getting better, and fitter and stronger. The real some of the I felt a massive weight off my shoulders after Robe, because I had to work so hard to get into Robe as well. That was one of those days that it was raining, it was windy, and we had some people from Robe contact us and just say. That was Road to Recovery?
Road to Recovery, yeah. So we had them contact us and say, look, we're going to organise a police escort in.
Good on them.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was easily the highlight of the trip. The highlight of the trip wasn't, for me, it was the night before where I worked so hard to get to the point where I made Saturday easy. And the moment where we got into Road to Recovery, where we got into Road with the police escort, and there's no one around, all right? It was just like me, Mum, and the people from the board of Road to Recovery. And it was such a special moment that it was like no one knows the heartache and the hurt you have to go through to get there. The moments like that made it all so easy. And just like the start of that day was tough because it was cold, freezing, wet, and headwinds as well that day, I remember. And my shin started to blow up really, really badly that day. This is a day after I started, like the first day after we started to use the foot device on the left foot. And it was also, we had it done too tight, and it was causing too much pressure on the Achilles, which started to give me mass Achilles problems as well. And that's the only hanging around issue now that I've got that I'm actually worried about is that left Achilles, which I'll get an MRI on tomorrow night, but it should be fine. So that was giving it a lot of problems. I was having a lot of issues running that day. And I remember 10 or 15K in, I'm like, this just might be one of them days that we might have to call it at 35, 40. Yeah. And Road to Recovery called up and they're like, well, actually, can you run into the finishing point, which was the
memorial there.
The war memorial there.
Yep.
And Mum's like, they're going to get a police escort for you. And I'm like, because with Robe as well, like you don't run into Robe, you just run on the outskirt of Robe. And so it was an extra 2.5K to get in there. And I'm thinking to myself, at K18, I can hardly walk down the road. I'm like, today is going to be a struggle. But we're going to get there. And I reckon that and some of the day, like the 50k day I had with my mate, and then the second to last day where I arrived in, or the top of Adelaide. Those are the hardest 3 days I had to work to get to that position. And probably that day was one of the hardest because it's just the injuries that I was battling by myself. But when they sort of came out and were like, we're going to roll out the red carpet for you, I was just like, well, got to make it now. And it turned out to be easily the coolest moment we had on the run. You know, both like emotionally, physically, in a sense, spiritually as well. So, just had this moment where
such cool footage as well that I think Steph captured. With the drone. Yeah,
that was awesome. And like the good thing, because it was a bit different coming to Adelaide, where you're surrounded by family and friends and stuff like that. There, it was like it was a miserable day. I just wish people, and like people would know, and you know, from me talking about, I just wish like how hard that day was to get there. Just made it all the more special for it. And we got there was it was just, and it was cool. It was cool as well because it was so private.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? It was like there are a few people from Road to Recovery there, and I actually remember reading some comments on Instagram and Twitter or what is it, TikTok, of people being like, and the crowd goes wild, trying to take the piss out of me because there was no one there. But like, what made it so special is that it was only me, my mum and wife, and the people from Road to Recovery. Like,
it's not about the crowd though, is it?
Yeah, I wouldn't have wanted anyone there. It was just like, it was a very personal moment that we got to hold. Just with like the small team we had and the members from Road to Recovery. So that was that was easily the highlight of the trip. So that's cool.
I remember in that footage, after you've made it to the memorial and then you walk off and you kind of put your hands on your knees and there's a bit of a wobble there.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like anyway. Yeah. And you can just, if you know what you're looking for, you can just see how hard you've worked to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, I could hardly stand after that.
Yeah.
It was tough. I just remember thinking like it's that like euphoric moment, and you just, but that moment meant so much more as well, because obviously the finishing location, what people from Road to Recovery had to do to be able to pull in the police escort. And it was funny, the police escort met me about like 3-4k out, so about K. I just hit a marathon for the day, and I was just like, and this is one of these moments as well, is on these runs that like injuries are there, like the shins are blowing up, nothing's really playing ball that day. I just couldn't get the devices right in my feet and in my ankles to be able to get it perfect, and we did get it perfect in the end, where I could run pretty pain-free. But those were one of those days I'd run 100 metres down the road, the Achilles would blow up, so I'd loosen the pressure on.
Something.
I'd adjust something, and then all of a sudden the shin blows up.
Yeah.
So nothing was working, and like, it's funny, like I said, 200 metres down the road when you're in that position could be like fucking 20k down the road. Like, that's how far that distance seems when you just can't move your body. I remember meeting at K40, 42, and he put all the sirens on and stuff like that, and his the lights, like all the pain just went away.
Yeah. Shout out to whoever that was. Good on you.
Yeah, it was great. It's just, and the pain went away for that next 3 to 4k that he had me in, and running just became, I just felt like I was running on clouds. Like I had no injuries, no nothing. It just became such an easy moment. It's like almost my body went like, because you work so hard, like, we're going to make this so easy for you now, sort of thing, which was, such a, like, these are the moments that people don't understand as well. Like, where I was at, I could hardly, lift the leg. And then when we got in there, it was just like, it's just amazing how the body works like that. It's like it rewarded me for getting there by giving me an easy 3k to run.
Yeah. The body's amazing.
Mm.
Yep.
So, and that's a moment that'll, like I'll never forget that. Especially with how the body rewarded me for getting there, and then giving me that last 3K for. It was like it just gave
On
to
the
me.
house.
It just said, "Here, have this.
You deserve this, mate."
Yeah, you've worked hard. You can have that moment." And it was probably definitely one of the more special moments I've had, which is cool. And then
it was downhill from Road to Adelaide.
Then from Road to Adelaide was my brother joined me the next day. I remember that was sibling rivalry that day. I remember thinking to myself, yeah, I fucking want to break him. So that day, because we normally worked in 5 to 8K intervals, that day I just worked in 10K intervals. We for the first time as well, we had a bit of a breeze behind us, so we had a bit of a tailwind. Okay. So running became a bit easier. There was a bit of elevation coming out of there, but not too bad. And I just worked in 10K intervals, and I think I dropped him about K22. He finished off, and mate, to fucking run 30K after he's never ran 21K over 21K. So he ran that, and it was a great effort.
But you still won.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So I remember eating at K30. It pissed down with rain, so we extended the lunchtime a bit. And he came in as well, and he said, that's it. And I'm like, well, you've done a fucking great effort to make it this far.
100%.
Yeah. But that day wasn't too bad. We made it into Kingston, that following day. I remember my left shin blew up late that day. But I thought to myself, well, the left shin the day before was blowing up at K20, and now it's blowing up at K35. And what happened is every day after that, it phased itself out, and it just didn't come.
Wow.
Which was really good. Made our way down through there. I remember the day before Meningi was a tough day of headwinds, and at this stage as well, I remember saying to Mum, I'm like, I'm going to do less talking on the phone, and I stopped that completely. I stopped talking to the phone when I was running, purely because at that stage in the race or in the event, you have to be so concentrated on running and your form that you're not getting distracted, because you might get injured if you step wrong. So it's like the mental battle of staying locked in for that 7 to 8 hours a day as you go on to these events to ensure that your form is staying correct, your posture's correct, you're stepping right. You're not potentially going to run on a rock, which is going to roll you over. So you have to be locked in now more than ever. So I stopped talking to the phone later in the event because I was just concentrated the whole time on running. And it's like, if you're talking on the phone, I might miss my drink point as well. And, if you miss your drink point, then you just keep running and you're like, I don't need a drink. And all of a sudden you're fucking lying down on the road and you're out. So I stopped. So I stopped talking to and just doing updates on social media on my personal phone. After that, I would take photos here and there sometimes. But I remember having a hard day coming into Meningi. I had a mate join me though, and again, it was just easy to suffer with someone with headwinds. That would have been a hard day by myself, but
for sure
we managed to run that out pretty well. I got really bad knee pain that day. I remember that, but we did some releasing up in my hip, which again released the ITB, which got me running again. It actually jolted me into pain where I fell over. I remember that.
Yeah, right.
But again, that was just the ITB not playing.
Yeah, okay.
And then, we got into Meningi. I remember one of the physios we seen in Robe, not physio, massage therapists were like, you need to start getting onto footy clubs and getting into their ice bath every night. So what I did, we rang up Meningi, we rang up Tailem Bend, and when we got close to these footy clubs, we were like, can we have your ice bath? And they're like, oh yeah, what for? Mum would tell them. And they would just have they would have already filled up the ice bath, already had the water ready, already had it all closed. They would be offering us stuff and shit like that. So Meningi Football Club, which is now a different name, I think they're called the Curon Cats or something. But them and Tailem Bend were fantastic with that.
Yeah.
But running became, like I said, running became super easy. I remember one of my mates came out. He's a videographer, got some good stuff that we're going to put together for the... What am I going to do for it? This is my mind going again.
Some sort of
documentary. Yeah. So he got a lot of footage for the documentary when I release on it.
Amazing.
But he even said, because we ran 50k that day, ran it pretty well. He's just like, man, I remember him saying, you don't look like you've just run 800k. You don't look like you don't look like you wake up sick every day. You don't look like, you should be. Yeah, he goes, you just look fine, which was good to hear. And yeah, I remember because there's not really too much to talk about from them days coming into Adelaide. But the day that we started from Mali Briggs to Adelaide, that was the second to last day. And 45 Ks would have got us somewhere near Stirling. But my goal that day, and we started really late that day because we stayed at my mate's house in Mylor, so we had to drive from Mylor back to Mali Briggs. And we started about 10 o'clock that day. And I remember thinking to myself, that's it. Like, this is the last day of elevation. The next bit of elevation you're running tomorrow, it's going to be downhill. Like, you're going to work hard enough today to make tomorrow super easy. And we looked at the elevation. There was over 1,200 metres of it. Me and Mum are arguing because she sent me a wrong way into a mining site. So the double back was only 700 metres. So it wasn't much. No. But there was a lot of confusion about, can we run down this road and stuff like that. So Mum and that would drive down it and we would quickly, would wait and then we'd run down it and stuff like that. So it's a lot of logistics, which, again, unless you've got a team of 6 or 7 behind you and you have a logistics guy and a mapper guy that goes out and drives the route that you're going to run the next day and knows that it's safe and accessible, then you're just not going to know these things.
No.
So, yeah, we ran that. I remember that day, the elevation was dog shit. It was fucked. I had a guy join me from I'm going to say Blackwood MFS station, CFS station. He's an MFS guy in Adelaide. Great fella. He was really good to run with. He ran 30k a minute. Again, it was just it's just made that morning so much easier, because if you're going to suffer, you're going to suffer with someone. It just, the time goes past when you're running up these big fucking hills. You can probably kiss God on the dick that they're that big, and you just run down them and then you run back up them. But it's so much easier doing it with someone. And the frustrating part was I'm running right next to the freeway. And the freeway is cutting through the hills.
Yeah, so you can see an easier route.
I can see an easier route, and I just, like that day, I remember crying, at the end of that day, literally just breaking down, and because Steph, we didn't put that bit up on social media. After I was just hunched over, I think it was like a moment I knew it was over. And yeah, you sort of, I don't know, I had a bit of a weird empty feeling about it, knowing that tomorrow was going to be a bit easy. And to me, that was a real finish on, to the event, because I'd a beautiful sunset going.
Could you see Adelaide from the hill? You could see,
yeah. So I
physically see the end.
Yeah. So I got to a point where, and that was, I say, that was the hardest day on the event by far. And I had my best running day on that event, and I ran my hardest on that event with the most elevation. The elevation was cooked. Probably would have broken anyone that had, would just go run that. It was really, really tough. But I just said to myself, we're getting to a point where it's going to be downhill next day. And I remember getting to Mount Barker was the big one. When we got to Mount Barker, it was the hills were on top of the hills already. We're already on the hills. So it was just a lot of up and down. But getting to Mount Barker, that was tough. But once we got through Mount Barker, I'm eating heaps. I'm running through Hahndorf. I'm getting to the other town that was there. Then we're on to Stirling, and the sun's going down because we started later. And I remember capturing Adelaide on the sunset. And I hit about K51 at that point, and it just all just hit me at once. Yeah, it just came down and hit me like a ton of bricks. Steph was a couple of hours down the road. I stopped running at that point as well because I was like, oh, I'm just going to walk in this next last 300 metres. I'm just going to take in the view for one of the first times on this thing. I've taken a lot of views before, but I had run and taken in a view. I'm just going to appreciate this moment. But yeah, it was sort of this bittersweet moment that I knew I had so much more in me and that tomorrow it was going to finish. I felt like I could have run further for longer. But yeah, the event was ending. I'm not going to put my pregnant wife or my mum that's already taken a month off from work through anything else.
Yeah.
But knowing the fact that I got to such a point where running became so easy and we called it where we did, that'll always hang with me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is like, it's such a weird feeling because like obviously the run was such a big challenge, and a lot of people are like, I'm struggling to run 21 Ks, and even if you're even doing a marathon, but averaging 45 Ks for 23 days in a morning, that's unreal. But there's a big part of me that just, so like I just feel like there's unfinished business, which is weird. Which also that's probably the reason why I broke down the way I did that night. Because Steph doesn't have it, but I was crying like a girl, like a little girl. Right after we did that short as well for the Instagram story. It was just a massive sense of relief, a big sense of accomplishment, but then there was this empty feeling of it's going to be over.
Yeah. Well, I'm assuming that
and I hadn't seen home.
No.
So
very symbolic.
Yeah, I hadn't seen home, and the night before we stayed at a friend's house in Mali, which is just around the corner, to save us the extra 20 minutes. So that night I knew I was coming home to sleep at my house, which I hadn't seen. I hadn't seen my dogs, and I'm a pretty homely person.
Yeah,
I enjoy my house. I enjoy my comforts here. So it was a big moment. So I always say to myself, like the robe moment. I mean, that was the real finish.
Yeah. And I can see why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the night before, just me and my mum and my wife, that was the real finish.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that you talk about that being bittersweet. Most people listening would probably just expect you to be stoked, but there's obviously part of you that wants to find your limit, and you weren't quite there yet.
Yeah,
or weren't there yet.
Yeah, the crazy thing is look, I love running over the line. I loved having friends and family there, but there was a small part of me that was disappointed that we finished.
Do you have to keep that in check though, knowing that you had a very specific mission? And you completed that. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes, you had more, and yes, that's disappointing.
This is just my ego coming out.
Yeah. And keeping it in check and realising that there's always another time if you want to see where that limit is.
That's it. I read this great book called Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday.
Yeah.
Fantastic book. It talks about this very thing.
Yeah, right.
Keeping egos in check and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I've always just been reaching for that, where's the limit sort of thing. And I guess the one thing that's disappointing, if I had got to a point, that last, so let's say day 15 onwards, that my body was like, oh man, I can't get through these days anymore. And it really became a struggle to get through the days, but it only improved. It only got better. It only got easier. And I don't think that's because I was coming to the finish line. Like from about day 12 onwards, after we got past Robe, or I think day 13 or 14, past Robe, it became so easy that it was like alarmingly easy. And we got up with when we started to push the Ks out a little bit further. I had some 50K days here and there. So that would have been the next thing, to start to do 60K days and stuff like that. But we didn't want to push it because the Saturday finish was on the cards. It was like if we came in on a Friday morning, we wouldn't have had anyone there.
Yeah, you had to time it all right.
Yeah.
It's also important to know that you're when you talk about it being easy, it's all relative to the challenge you're comparing that to. And you're comparing that to days 3 to 8.
Yeah.
I think it's important to remember that your easy day is still not easy. Like
Yeah.
it would be a hard day for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. It would
It's
have
all
been
relative.
Even if I tried to go run, 45 to 50K when I'm probably up and running again, like it's tough. Like anyone that's run a marathon, like they know what happens to the body after and days after the event. But yeah, I guess maybe because I worked so hard to get to a point where the body was operating so well, I know now what I need to go to get there again.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And now if I go there again,
That
it's
makes
like
sense.
I'm like I've got 2 weeks of hell to get there.
Yeah.
I'm like I was there
it's taking you.
like 8 days ago.
Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah.
And I had an opportunity to go further.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
No, that makes complete sense. 10 to 14 days to get yourself to a point where it starts to feel okay.
Yeah.
And then shortly after it's done.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, exactly. You want to do that again, you're going to have to go through that hell again just to get there.
Yeah.
And there's probably a part of you that just wanted to use it while you had it.
Exactly right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, I'm definitely not ruling out something. I've definitely hinted on my social media that I want to do something again. How that looks, what that looks, the logistics of it, where and from. One thing I've learned is how much toll this has on your team. They work harder than the runner does.
Yeah.
You can, and then especially when my wife was pregnant.
Massive.
Working.
Not your wife's massive.
Yeah.
Massive effort from your team, from your mum and your wife.
But yeah, and then, like you got to understand the work mum was doing as well.
Yeah.
Like she's just like doing everything.
Yeah.
Right. Because Steph struggled to do stuff.
And she was still operating a business on the road
she
whilst
was
looking after you and supporting you and massaging your toes in the middle of the night.
And also growing a baby as well.
Yeah.
But then like
Superwoman.
Getting up every single night, getting at 1 a.m. to feed me, to put ice on me. That takes its toll. So I think, I bet you though, if you would have asked mum and my wife, hey, do you want to go another 20 days? They would, right? Because they want to support me. But yeah, I think, the smart thing would have been, hey, if we can get another team, let's maybe run to Perth or something. But mate, everything's got to have an end to it. I remember the couple of days, we could talk about the end event too much, but there's just not too much to talk about. We literally ran downhill for 15Ks. It was really good to run with my best mate Jesse and Dan Pronk. So that was fun. And what the MFS did at the ending location was fantastic as well, and to have family and friends there to finish the event and to get good media coverage on it as well to raise awareness was fantastic. But yeah, to me, symbolic. Like the days that were very symbolic to me were probably crossing. The day after we had that, where I got 45K out, and I did that yelling and screaming.
Mm-hmm. We had had the appointment. Thought it was possibly done.
Yeah, thought it was over.
Managed to put the pieces together and then finish 45Ks.
And then road moment, and then the night before.
Yeah.
The night before finishing on the Friday night, because I worked so hard. But then there was this, for a couple of days later, I just felt this really empty feeling. It was it's quite hard to put my hand on it at the moment. It's probably, it's come and gone a lot. Like I really should feel like I should still be running. Like in my dreams every night I'm still running, which is one of the weirdest things I've ever experienced. I've never experienced like the hot and cold sweats. Probably after 4 or 5 days they went, except for one night where I tried to train and they came back on in the big way. But it's quite hard to put on. It's quite hard to put my hand on it about how I'm feeling about the run. Yeah. Right now, probably still a little bit too early.
Yeah.
But it's such a like, and people were probably looking at this right, and they look back like, mate, you just ran all this far, but there's this like lingering thing in me that I just feel like I got cut short.
I'm sure you'll use that as some sort of motivation for something else.
100%. Yeah. But also as well, I've had this really like weird feeling every single night, and I just dream about running. and I'll wake up in a panic thinking I need to run. Like, hey, you've still got 10K to do. And it actually takes me to get up and to go to the toilet and to turn a light on to realise I'm not there.
Snap out of it.
Yeah, so like I'm almost like I get up and sleepwalk, still feeling like I'm in that mode of like having to run.
Sure.
And then I'll turn a light on and I'll be like, okay, mate, the run's over. So I've been battling with that now since we stopped.
Yeah, and I imagine it'll ease off at some point, but it's probably a bit early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's and this is still with this brain fog.
Yeah.
The body's definitely getting better. I'm stretching, walking around fine, moving fine. I feel like I'm getting a little bit of strength back. I'll probably start going to the gym and doing light weights tomorrow, seeing how that goes. But yeah, I mean, like the body's recovering okay. I'll get an MRI tomorrow night, see what's happening there. But yeah, apart from that, mate, to be honest, I found what I'm capable of, which is cool. And also as well, like on the reasoning why, and I probably made this a little bit clear before, but it was a very big personal challenge for me when we started this run. It very quickly changed. Day 3, when I'd wake up and I'd have, like, my message thing would just say 100, and it couldn't be clocked out anymore because it doesn't display messages over 100. Of just the flooding in of sort of how it's working. So it very soon became, I'm not running for myself sort of thing. And that became very apparent after some of the reels I was doing and the feedback I was getting.
I think a lot of people can take a lot from watching you go through that and apply it to their own challenges in their own life. And I think they made that pretty clear, didn't they? Yeah.
And I think that's potentially why I'm getting the feeling I'm getting now as well. Because once you stop running, and this is probably a very selfish point as well. Like once you stop running, you get a whole bunch of flooded messages in, but everyone just goes back to their normal life. It's like it's done.
Of course.
So maybe I'm sort of yearning for that sort of feeling again of it being in such a positive way that it's helping people, and it's a good reflection on that.
Yeah.
So maybe there's that I need to, that's processing at the moment as well.
There's also something worth keeping in mind is, you talk about having a slightly empty feeling because you had more in the tank. But this was only going to end two ways. It was going to end with you finishing, having slightly more in the tank, or you not finishing and falling short because you've reached your limit. Yeah. And which one of those would you rather?
Yeah, definitely finishing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only two options there was ever going to be.
Yeah. I remember saying to my wife, there's only one way I'm finishing this thing. Or there's two ways I'll finish: in the back of an ambulance. Or
you're there, or you make it.
Yeah, or crossing that line.
And the reality is, if you can make it there, you've got more in you.
Yeah.
Whether it's 100Ks or 3Ks or 10Ks, there's obviously more in you if you've made it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that, I guess. I don't know. I like to be honest. Like, I look back at it now. I talk to you about it. It's more just the ego thing.
Yeah, of course.
Of thinking that I could run further. But I like, again as well. I like potentially only just tipping the iceberg of what we can do in the future for future events. I've got a few ideas that are jumping around in my head. But yeah, I look back on it now. Like what I've been able to sort of accomplish and do.
You raised a lot of money for a good cause that you and I are both passionate about.
Yeah, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And those communities obviously loved what was happening and what was doing, and I think the money thing is, look, that's awesome, but the awareness that it raised, that's priceless. Yeah, that's priceless stuff. But also as well, probably one of the coolest things I think from the trip is that my wife was pregnant. So one of the holidays we've already penciled in is when the family's up and running. Is we'll go back and do it again, but Dad will drive it, not run it. Yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah, so, we talked about that when you and I were running together, didn't we?
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
So cool little moments like that.
Yeah.
My mum loved the run more than anyone else. Do you know what I mean? So that's a cool thing to have with her.
What a great family experience.
Yeah.
Yourself, your wife, and your mother to do that together.
Yeah.
Beyond the run and beyond the cause for the run, just spending that long together in the Aussie countryside.
Yeah.
She would have.
And, I just I've always been, I wouldn't say impatient about things, but, my fuse can burn. My fuse isn't that short, but I definitely learned a lot of patience as well during that. Patience that I probably maybe had lost over, my years from potentially leaving the army or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was just patience with, working, especially those days when no one had an idea what they were doing early on.
Mm-hmm.
Not even I did. We just had to keep continuously calling my coach, who would sometimes take a little while to get back to us. What do we do here? What do we do here? What do we do here? And it's we didn't really hit our stride until day 14 or 15 as a team. So me having the patience to be we don't know what to do here. No one knows. It's okay then. So that was a really cool aspect of it as well.
Yeah.
But
sure.
I just can't wait to start feeling better again. Maybe my mind will clear up a bit then, but
I'm sure it will.
Yeah.
Well, look, you should be very proud of yourself. I know you're there's an empty feeling, there's more in the tank, but you should be very proud of yourself.
Yeah.
And everyone that's watched your journey, including myself, is extremely proud of what you've achieved. Not just for yourself, but for everyone that you've been doing it for.
Yeah, that's it, man. And it was just to be honest, it was, and I said it a few times, it was an honour to be able to run for those communities. And there was this, no one knew about the symbolic version of the 1042.
Yeah.
That wasn't a mistake.
No,
we planned that from the start. So obviously the 42 Australian soldiers we lost to the war on terror, to honour them. So, every event probably from now on would have that 42 at the end of it. But how that looks and what we do and how we attack it, you look at the last event, I had 4 months to prepare for it. And we got cut short, 4.5 months to prepare for it, and we got cut short with an injury that really deloaded me, and I lost a lot of conditioning and fitness. But I think to myself, I heal this up and we could get a good year at a training block. We'd have 3 or 4 blocks of 3 or 4 months in there. What's sort of possible and what we could do on the other end. And then I have so many people say, you got kids and that coming along and stuff like that as well. But I think, that sort of motivates me more to be, especially now that you become a dad. I know a lot of people talk about changing. You change when you become a dad. Life changes, obviously.
It does.
Massively. But I think for me, and I can already sort of see a bit of a change in myself, is who do I want to be, or how do I want my kids to see me as they grow up? Do they want to see it as someone, or do they want to see their dad for someone who stands up and what he believes in and, puts his money where his mouth is? So I think that's one of the most important things, and a byproduct of that is if I'm going to speak up for the veteran community, I not only need to use my voice, but there's obviously a program here that I can use to, and my running ability and with how far I can push myself. So I can obviously use that from a physical point of view as well. So I think that's 100%. Important, just for me as well, to be able to know that as I become a father, how do I want my kids to be able to see me, and what will they say about me? Probably one of the most important things, I think. So, I've had a few friends that'll be like, I think maybe slowing a kid will having a kid will slow him down, but I think I might be the opposite. Now, if I got to run three or 4 Ks, if I got to run for 3 or 4 hours, that 3 or 4 hours might be from running from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. rather than during the day.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then so be it.
I look forward to seeing what's next, mate.
Yeah.
After you get that Achilles sorted.
Yeah, no, that's good. But, mate, thanks for jumping on. We're at this for 2 and a bit hours now. So I've actually got someone coming around, which might help, to put an IV drip in me.
Okay.
Yeah, she's, I think she's due here at in half an hour, 45 minutes. One of my wife's friends, she runs a business and just said, hey, I'm willing to come around and throw it in for free. So I said, definitely. But I think we'll probably would have organised it anyway, just with how deflated I'm feeling. Maybe that stuff might help. So, yeah, got that happening in a little bit, and we'll see how we go after that. But
well, thank you very much from the Aussie Frontline Foundation, mate, for everything that you've done. Obviously, the messaging and the awareness is priceless, but the funds you've been able to raise for our foundation will enable Dan and myself and the team to be able to deliver the kinds of services that our community needs that, in our opinion, actually make a difference.
No, it was my honour, mate.
Yeah.
It was my honour. So, I just, I'm looking forward to what we can do in the future.
Me too.
Good on you, mate. Thanks
See
for
you,
that.
mate.
That wraps up this episode. If you enjoyed it, please make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and follow. It really helps out our channel. If you're listening on a podcast platform, a quick review goes a long way. And don't forget to share the episode, tag your friends, and drop a comment. I always appreciate your feedback and love hearing your thoughts. Until every voice is heard.